In the next section, our second keynote speaker will discuss accelerating the sustainable cities of the future. He will be sharing his insights into how cities can drive the right sustainability agenda for the future and how they are leveraging modern-day technologies to accelerate towards these outcomes, and what are the critical success factors in this journey. He is a global strategic business leader with significant Asia experience. He has built and transformed businesses in various roles in China, US, India, and Singapore. He is well versed in multiple cultures and has established strong global relationships. He is a technologist at heart with deep expertise in data center, enterprise software, edge, and data science. He is also responsible for Dell's growth in the Asia-Pacific and Japan region, overseeing a multi-billion-dollar business spanning over 40 countries with a multicultural workforce. He is passionately focused on developing strong talent and technology leadership to support the digital transformation journey for Dell's customers and partners. He also leads Dell Technologies' Digital Cities business globally, driving the transformation of cities and engagement with governments and corporations. May I introduce our second speaker, President, Asia Pacific and Japan and Global Digital Cities, Dell Technologies, Mr. Amit Midha.
Hello, friends and colleagues. It is my pleasure and honor to be with you today, talking about Imagine the City of the Future, focus on sustainability. Now, today, I want to introduce myself first. I lead Dell's Asia Pacific and Japan region. I'm the president of Dell Asia Pacific and Japan, and I also lead Global Digital Cities. And today, we will start our conversation with giving you an example, visual example of innovation that is happening right here in the region in Japan. And that example is Toyota Woven City. This is how I would like you to imagine what's possible. Today, we have an opportunity to reimagine, recreate a new way of living, new way of working, new way of sustaining this world. And that is what is being shown in this video. So can we roll the video for Toyota Woven City, please?
Welcome to the city of the future. Woven City is being built across 175 acres at the base of Mount Fuji in Japan. It will be a completely sustainable, autonomous prototype city powered by hydrogen fuel cell technology and solar panels. City centers will have office buildings, fountains, and gathering spaces. Traffic is divided into 3 lanes. Automated buses, e-pallets, and delivery vehicles ply on the main roads. Personal mobility lanes are marked by the red flags. These will accommodate personal vehicles such as electric scooters, electric wheelchairs, and so on. And then you have the pedestrian pathways all through the city, mostly in the green spaces. So people who are walking throughout the city feel immersed in a park-like setting. Truly a pedestrian-first city without compromising vehicle access or quality of life. All the operational facilities and power sources will be underneath, hidden from view. People will live, work, and play in a secure, connected, and green environment, with the convenience and quality of life your citizens demand and deserve.
So as you saw, as we reimagine the future, a lot of possibilities are there. And I'm super excited about what the digital cities will create for all of us, for our next generation and for my generation. Now, let me just frame a few things. So first and foremost, climate change is the most critical challenge that humanity is facing today. As of 2020, it is estimated that our world is warmer by 1.2 degrees Celsius as compared to pre-industrial levels. The Paris Agreement had set the goal of restricting the global warming to below 2 degrees, ideally below 1.5 degrees. Global warming, even to 1.5 degrees, exposes our planet to some grave risks. rising sea levels, extreme weather, risk from flooding and surging demands. And then the higher level of global warming, this only multiplies. If you look at the current pledges as well as the committed action, we are looking at much higher median projected global temperature by 2100. Even in the most optimistic scenario, considering that net zero pledges will be realized, we will still miss 1.5 degree Celsius pathway. Clearly, more needs to be done, both in terms of commitments as well as supporting actions. This will require focus and concerted efforts from the governments, people, industry, and we're going to need new technology as well. Now, coming to the cities, now cities play a critical role. So a lot of cities have committed goals here, and we'll talk about them for a minute, but just consider this. 55% of global population is living on 1% of the Earth's surface, expected to increase to 70% by 2050. A large human-generated cause for this challenge is concentrated in cities. Cities consume 75% of global energy consumption, account for 70% of greenhouse gases emissions. Therefore, cities are where this problem will need to be solved, even though we're going to need all the land mass across the world. Cities are also most vulnerable to this impact of climate change. 90% of cities and almost 800 million of global population is vulnerable to risk of flooding from rising sea levels as well as more intense storms. Sign of which are already we are witnessing today. Be it the flooding in Sydney now, or this summer, a more than 3 weeks of temperature north of 50 degrees in India and Pakistan, depleting groundwater resources in many of the places. You can see this also has a financial impact. Cost of managing climate disaster is huge. Under the baseline scenario of 2 to 2.6 degree temperature increase, it is likely that there will be at least 10% erosion in economic value by 2050. And cities contribute, as you may know, 80% of global GDP. The good news is that the concentration of the challenge around city is also a key opportunity. Dense urban form is more suitable to build a greener way of life. Public transit systems are more carbon efficient. Denser urban dwellings can make land use more efficient. Cities are also this center of innovation, center of learning, center of power in terms of political decision making. These are key tools for us in this battle. More than 100 cities have already committed to climate action goals. Now, if I step back and just give you a global view in terms of positive commitments, again, actions need to be bigger and louder than the speech. More than 700 cities have committed to sustainability as a key pillars in their master planning, and 540 cities have now the emission inventory, and 340 have now committed to emission reduction targets. As of today, 230 cities have also committed to net zero, which is the target dates are between 2030 to 2050. So most of the intervention that is happening today at the city level is been focusing on energy efficient buildings, retrofitting, building codes and standards, lighting system upgrades, as well as renewable energy sourcing. Some examples of this is now you have New York City's vision of 100% renewable electricity by 2040, Stockholm's vision of fossil-free and climate-positive city by 2040 as well. Toyota, that is envisioning a prototype, will be run on hydrogen fuel, pushing the frontier on the sustainability vision of the future. Singapore, announcing that it will add 1,000 hectares of green spaces and plant more than 1 million trees by 2030. So you can see cities want to be part of solution, and there are actions. But these needs to be thought in a bigger way. What is it the system we're creating that can solve the problem that seems, is such a large scale that it seems like insurmountable. So urban areas are estimated to be contributing to 75% of the greenhouse gases. But if you look at this in terms of consumption-based accounting, we are looking at road, buildings, commercial, residence. All of that is already contributing 3/4 of urban emissions. Considering scope 1 emissions that occur within the boundary and the scope 2 emissions that are related to urban energy consumptions, but they are generated outside the urban boundary. We have to think about both when we are solving end-to-end problems. Fossil fuels are the primary source of these emissions across developed and developing nations. Although in developing markets, petroleum fuels, especially in mobility, appears to be slightly more dominant, while in developed market, grid energy being relatively more dominant cause. Again, if we solve this, it has to be looked at it end to end. It's not just scope 1, but also scope 2. Not what just is emitted within the city, but also what is the energy generation greenhouse gas impact that may be outside the urban boundary. We have to look at both of them. Now, when you look at the cities look at sustainability. Climate action is one, albeit the more critical dimension, but they have also a key role to play achieving some of the broader sustainable development goals, especially around specific social economic outcomes, like access to clean drinking water and sanitation, good health and well-being, reduction in inequalities, affordable housing, and many more. Which is why the Urban Sustainable Development Framework is the one that is sustainable, climate positive, resilient, and turn also into an inclusive, safe, and healthy environment for its citizens to thrive and drive economic growth, innovation, and human progress. Now, these are the things that we all can agree on. These are the good things, these are important things, and these are the things that we should all be thinking about as we reimagine the society. But if you look at some of the action underneath it, whether you are looking at climate positive impacts, which are, have a better integrated, urban planning or active transport or public mobility system, or looking at sustainable resources for all, where we decarbonize the energy or consumption efficiency. These are individually, each one of them are pretty massive initiatives, and they require not only a redesign of the system, use of technology, but also creation of a change in people's attitude and mindset, and the policy that incentivizes some of these actions and some of these initiatives that can make a positive impact, not only for individual or society, not only for country, but the entire humanity. And that sort of kind of consensus is hard to reach. As you have seen, even US has many times joined the initiatives but have backed off. Australia is now seeing the impact for some of the carbon economy that they have benefited significantly. So ultimately, this is where the challenge comes in. How do we go create a sustainable framework without giving up the progress we want to make on the social side or economic side? And that challenges and that tension is not easy to resolve. And we want to talk about what are the positive steps, or what are some of the steps that we have seen that help us achieve in managing these positive, in these tensions, and create a positive impact for the society. If we move to the next slide, you will see that this is just 7 key industry sectors where we talk about how we can abate the greenhouse gas emissions around 4 key transformations that need to happen. Electrification of end use. So electricity is most amenable to transition towards renewable resources. Decarbonizing the fuels. So electrification needs to be coupled with renewable sourcing, as well as medium-term options towards alternate fuels like hydrogen and advanced biofuels. Efficiency and avoiding the demand, including enabling a circular economy. And 4th, carbon capture, use, and storage. Not all greenhouse emissions can truly be abated, Thus, ability to capture and store and sequester carbon to net out the remaining and hard to abate emissions is a critical technology towards achieving the net zero pathway. Again, these are exciting things that if when delivered and when achieved, they will be very, very positive. Now, today I want to talk about what are the technologies that are leading and playing a key important role in enabling this transformation. Now, estimates suggest that technologies that are currently in the market or have been proven can help address most of the 2030 goals, although significant innovation will be needed towards being able to meet the 2050 targets. So close to 50% of 2050 abatement target will come from the technologies that are here today, either commercially or in the prototype phase. McKinsey, in the most recent study, estimated there are 5 core group of technology that will see most of the capital investments in next 5 years, up to $2 trillion of investments. And these are the estimate to contribute to 40% of 2050 abatement potential. Now, why this is important? Because I think these are important because even if we think about a humanitarian existential challenge, we also have to think about the business opportunity, the societies, the companies, the brands that can lead the sustainability drive. Not only they will have a better business results because the consumer preference and better brand value, but they will also have a significant opportunity to go after adjacencies given their brand and given their capability in the sustainability side. So I think this is a significant opportunity for individuals, for students, for company, for countries, for societies. So it's not only existential challenge from we have to solve it, but also from a business side, it's a huge opportunity as well. With the convergence of many modern day digital technology like 5G, edge computing, big data, AI, automation, digital and data is enabling a new set of capability towards driving this transformation. And the digital technologies are all already playing a key role in some of the key domains, like building energy efficiency through smart automation, smart and intelligent grids, leveraging automation and data analytics to drive greater efficiencies, intelligent traffic management system that can reduce congestion by 8%, digital twins that are being used for urban planning, the smart urban planning, and enabling several circular economy outcomes. However, the true value of digital technology for city is to enable cross-sectoral outcomes that are critical element to realizing the true potential of this transformation towards net zero. I think the efficiency side can take us from anywhere from 10 to 30%, but there is a reimagining of the system and the cross-system, cross-sectoral outcome, as I mentioned, is what will help us fulfill the rest of the gaps. Now, let's take a step back and say, let's start with the electricity side. So electrification of use today is about, let's say it will go up 5x from now to, 79%, 49% of share electricity will be in transportation sector. We have to decarbonize the fuel. Renewable electricity needs to grow 3x from now. 90% from the renewable sources and 63% of variable renewable sources like wind and power. Consumption efficiency has to go up both in terms of buildings as well as transportation side by 15%. This transition needs to address a few key imperatives. One, scaling the renewable energy capacity, especially through distributed energy system. And if you want to see more conversation on that, there is several $1 trillion of assets globally are now tied to a fossil fuel based energy power systems, and they're all centralized and then a distribution. Now we need to go to a much more decentralized and a balancing through a smart grid and others to be able to create a new energy production as well as distribution system. I think that's quite exciting, and that itself is a huge transition for most of the societies. As more variable renewables get connected to the grid, power system flexibility will need to be managed. Better storage technologies will need to be coupled with AI-enabled demand response systems that will play a key role. As more and more sectors get electrified, energy consumers will evolve as prosumers, playing a key role in demand flexibility management of this distributed energy grid, but also potentially creating profits for themselves. So not only energy gets free, but energy could also create a household income. And that could be exciting as well. But again, a lot of policy and a lot of capabilities needs to be there in the entire cities for it to become commonplace. Now, if you move forward, if I can show you that three main drivers towards net zero transition of the electricity sector will be: one, decarbonization of fuel, emission reductions, efficient mobility models and services like shared mobility, scaling up the public transit, efficient autonomous mobility, and also zero traffic fatalities, ZTF. This transition will need to address a few key imperatives: transitioning to a low carbon and new modes of mobility that will require investments in, as I mentioned before, enabling cross-sectoral urban infrastructure, integrated and open approach to enabling more autonomous operations and efficient data-driven decision-making, and finally, the ecosystem-led service approach to drive a relevant outcome. So I hope it gives you a bit of flavor. I wanted to kind of take a moment and double click and just showcase how one technology alone can create such a positive outcome for the entire scenario. And I'll give you some of these examples as well. So if you can move to next slide, please. So digital twins is one of those exciting pieces. So this is where you can create a replica of the entire digital infrastructure. Not only use that to create simulation, but use it to do operational monitoring as well as operational control. But over time, create end-to-end system optimization that is not possible in any other way. As you know, the AI systems kind of help us move away from this departmental thinking. Now, cities today are very much departmentalized and they think in certain silos. But when you bring things together in a digital twin framework, now you can design and optimize and operate and manage and monitor everything at the city level, everything at the citizen outcome level, everything at the sustainability level. Doesn't matter what the system is, doesn't matter how old it is, doesn't matter where it is. Now you have this end-to-end perspective. So digital replica of a city, which is a virtual model of its road, buildings, public spaces, combined with real-time information, feeds from sensor and other sources, can help you create some of those areas. Ultimately, there's many layers to this. You can start component level, project level, asset level, portfolio system, complex level, and then the city level, which can help you project the demand or manage the demand, look at air pollution, look at the solar potential or energy consumption, or even health impact and livability side. All of these things are the citizen outcomes that every city administrator, every city manager wants to be part of. And I think that's exciting. There has never been before this sort of technology which lets you do end-to-end optimization side. If you move to the next slide, I'll show you some examples on how this has been done. So if you look at the in Chattanooga, actually, this is the city in Tennessee, and U.S., a relatively small city, 182,000, one of the most congested. They worked on a project where digital twin technology, coupled with machine learning, was able to optimize the traffic light and reduce the fuel consumption by 16%. And again, just think about it. If you can take this and take it across the country, will save 15 billion liters per year in just US alone. Just imagine how much that can be saved. Again, these are efficiency plays and technology play in many ways. I'm just giving you examples so you can see how much is possible here. UK Smart Grid. There's another example I'll give you. It's a UK distribution and transmission network operator, SP Energy Networks and Digital Catapult are working with University of Strathclyde and the National Grid ASO, which is trying to understand how the potential role of advanced digital technology could be there in achieving UK's net zero goals. With the anticipated electrification of heat and transportation and proliferation of distributed energy resources, as I mentioned before, such like, and then the distribution like electric vehicles, solar, standalone battery storage, you will see a lot of flexibility. And again, this is where, peak capacity can be managed very well. If you want to see the new truck that got launched in US from Ford, F-150, and they are saying they now can power the house from the truck itself in case of an outage. And so you can see some of these demand drivers or also the storage for creating the peak capacity or an outage scenario. A lot of those things are, will be positive. But coming back to UK's example, once the digital twin is done, it will help understand the system in real time. We'll be able to visualize, simulate how and when the electricity transmission and distribution network is being used in order to balance the system in most optimal, safe, and cost-effective manner. I give you last example, which is the Singapore side. Singapore is one of the key early adopters of digital twin technologies. And Singapore is actively promoting cycling as part of low carbon energy to engage citizens in the physical exercise. Authorities are using digital twin technology to confirm road condition through a 3D model, taking into account factors as road obstacles, street shading, surrounding facilities, traffic connection, and other information in order to plan bicycle lanes and bicycle parking lots in the digital space. I think those are pretty exciting outcomes. And again, I have another example where you can see, how the campus, like California State University, was able to reduce as much as 1/3 of load reduction during a disaster recovery event. So again, a lot of exciting possibilities, which could be as much as 30% saving in terms of peak capacity planning. So I would just say this, that what you should be thinking, that a lot of these examples are showcasing us that digital technologies play an important part in planning, monitoring, optimizing a great outcome that is possible with a new kind of system. Smart grid, where distributed power production is there, cannot be really operated and balanced unless the digital technologies play a key part. Digital meters are playing key part. Pricing is published on a regular basis, and there are many customers in East Asia as well, in Japan as well as in Korea, who are betting in a big way after the nuclear disaster to say how the solar can play a much bigger part in each community. So very exciting on what's possible from digital technologies, not only to optimize, not only to monitor, but also operate and improve the efficiency by significant percent, as much as 10 to 30%. Let's move to next slide, please. So again, you have seen a lot of the vision, a lot of technologies, but again, I would just say in the case of the technologies, they play a part in owning and driving efficiency. But the bigger part comes in from a leadership and the people side as well. And this is where cities need to take a lead in adapting and orchestrating transformation. So this becomes a transformation, and any transformation is a journey. And as they move on this journey, as I mentioned, not only is it good for humanity, but also it's a big opportunity. So they have to make sure the climate actions are driving meaningful multilateral partnership across government tiers and private sectors. Cities will have to drive a true integrations across their system of system. That means they have a multiple systems and they kind of nested, but they don't have an end-to-end view. So they have to create the system of system, as we call it. You may have let's call it a heating system or kind of a transmission system, or you may have the waste system, but they're not necessarily having an end-to-end visibility. But the good news is today, integrated operations center and many other things from a digital city and smart city, all of these systems can be combined very seamlessly, and you have a end-to-end view of what the city's carbon footprint is and where is the optimization opportunities are, and what should they be doing, both from a policy and or system optimization perspective and control perspective as well. Next piece is that as you do more digitization, as you have more data, we have to make sure cybersecurity issues are managed at the same time as well. So zero trust security becomes very, very critical. And zero trust security is the foundation stone for everything we do in the digital city. What zero trust security means is that there is no way someone can assume to be having a profile different. So if someone's behavior is defined as X, if there is a new behavior, that new behavior is not allowed, because it's every action within the system is assumed to be zero trust. So not only the person have to be defined, but what the person can do is also well defined. And those business controls are important. So tomorrow, if someone goes to a system and says, please transfer this data, that's not allowed, because that's zero trust security. You may have seen just yesterday or day before, Shanghai police lost about 1 billion records of its citizens. We do not know who the actors were, but clearly you can see it's a major breach, I think the largest breach ever. But those are the kind of sort of things is very important for us to make sure that as we digitize, as we electrify, the system is resilient and system is secure. Last but not least is, how do we make sure we have a more inclusive approach? How do we get the whole population to be accepting, adapting, and benefiting from this? And that's what the digital divide is. And this is where is removing digital divide is critical to have a sustainable growth. And this digital divide sometimes comes from the education, sometimes comes from the aid, sometimes comes from the ability to change. And we have to make sure we can bring everybody together. And this ability to change or willingness to change is not just digital only. It happens when anything new comes out, whether it's vaccination or it's about recycling. And a lot of those things require for us to bring the entire population together and be able to benefit from the positive benefits that a lot of these new technologies, whether it's about decarbonization, carbon capture, electrification changes, or urban mobility that is all powered by electricity or hydrogen, or new way of living that you saw from a woven city. All of those things are requiring a acceptance and leaning in by citizens that is very, very important. Move to next slide, please. So as I'm closing this, I just will basically say, if you step back even further, cities need to take sustainability as the core principles of designing long-term vision and roadmap. Not only that, this can actually ensure that not many people are left behind, but it also can create economic benefit that each city is looking for. So long-term vision and roadmap must include the policy, the regulatory actions, operational excellence, change management, some of these things I talked about. Cities have to be able to move beyond a subsystem level complexity, how they may be organized. They have to think about a digital layer that can help them look at things end-to-end, optimize things to end, control things end-to-end, and organization structure underneath that needs to enable that. And change management within the government will also be required. And I think that system of system is something that digital technology enable. And that is the first basis before other things can happen. Now, if you want to build a digital city, it has to have a foundation, because things will keep changing. 5 years from now, something else will happen. So how do we make sure we have a digital core that acts as foundation? So no matter which direction in the future we go, that core is able to serve the new use cases or new expectations or new technologies. And I think that core is what the cities will have to think about as well. And last but not least, as I said, as you think about the sustainability as a core driver for long-term vision and roadmap, if local innovation is not captured, the digital divide will always be there, and the people's acceptance will also be not there. So how do we engage the citizens? How do we engage the universities? How do we engage the industry? So industry can be part of the solution. So I am super excited for what's possible with technology. As I mentioned, there is a pretty bold goals that many of the cities, many of the countries are putting forth. I think we still have a lot of inventions, a lot of innovations to do to hit 2050 goals. I know it's a very pressing goals because guess what? If we don't make those innovations happen, if we don't make those inventions happen, if we don't get divide between rich and developing countries be gapped in terms of technology, I think we all are going to pay the price. So I would encourage all of you, I will urge all of you to be part of the solution. If you're running a company, think about how your vision includes sustainability. Do you have a good understanding of your own carbon footprint? Do you have a set of goals that you have announced externally and internally that everyone is working towards? Do you have set of goals, set of technologies that gives you the core to be able to manage sustainability and electrification and the carbon reduction and carbon zero roadmap? And again, you have to make sure this is everyone's responsibility, everyone's ownership. Unless everyone owns it, this would not happen. So thank you very much for listening. I'm super excited to be on this journey. I would look forward to engaging, collaborating, partnering with you. We have a lot to offer, but we also have a lot to learn. And with that, I look forward to a great journey together ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Midha, for your insightful sharing.